I'm a capital G gamer.
I mean, that's what G sounds like in game. G.
Yeah, you're right.
Capital
The
G gamer.
The G stands for gamer. Hey, I'm really feeling the summer vibe now, David.
Ooh, why's that? It looks very bright where you are.
It is very bright out. It's quite warm. We just got through the like kind of summer games fest stuff. And like, man, I nothing quite starts summer for me like previews of video games for whatever reason.
There's some heaters coming our way.
There sure are, and just like I remember so fondly the coverage of, hey, here's video games when you come home from school, like right before it's about to get out for summer. Like here's some fresh new hot ones.
Ah, it's so good. The G4 E3 coverage, I think we've talked about it before. It was so good.
Yeah, it was really, really fun. Here, hold on, before we go all the way down the nostalgia hole. Hey, it's Video Game Podtimism. It's the Optimist video game variety show where two best friends talk about the wonderful world of gaming. My name is Chase.
My name is David.
Yeah, I'm feeling it. It feels warm. It feels summery. I'm out here playing video games. There's so many video games, David.
There's so many. There really are. And I feel like we're just getting so many good recommendations for old games too. I'm like, there's even more good games for me to play in this world.
I feel like the last couple of weeks, we've got kind of a string of recommendations from people that are like, there's one of two kinds of recommendations. Either you get one person who we've never heard from before, who's like, here's this one thing that I would like to hear about. Or you get somebody who suggests 20 video games. So I feel like we've had a string of the like one person being like, hey, you should play this game. And I'm really excited about those. There's a couple in there that I'm like, I don't know what the fuck this is.
Right. There's some obscure ones or ones that I don't know even if you call them obscure, but just ones I have not heard of.
Yeah. Just like the one today.
Like the one today. Never heard of it.
Yeah.
But spoiler alert, we both enjoyed it.
Yeah, it is true. The game's pretty good. We'll get there. David, have you been playing video games?
Just video game. It's still all Zelda.
Yeah.
All Zelda all the time.
Tell me about where your head's at with that one.
I guess I'll talk about some spoilery stuff for Zelda. Yeah. Right now, first in some ways. So just letting people know.
Spoiler warning. What part of the game are you going to spoil here?
The Master Sword.
Okay. Yeah. And the stuff regarding how you get it?
Yes.
Okay, great. So if you don't want any of that, I'll put chapter markers in. You can skip ahead.
Yeah. Getting the Master Sword was so damn cool.
It was so
That
amazing.
was so cool.
Yeah.
Once I started talking about draconification in one of those past like cutscenes, I was
memories,
like, okay, this is what's happening. This is what's happening. Zelda is a very sad dragon going around Hyrule because she's had to be a dragon for like thousands of fucking years.
Yeah.
While she slowly restores the Master Sword in her forehead.
That was a real, like, I had mentioned it when we talked about it a little bit. I was trying to be very dodgy about it, but like, that was such a fucking gut punch for me because I hadn't finished the Dragon Tears quest line before I got the Master Sword.
Oh, really?
And yeah. And so like I had seen that was an option available to her.
Sure.
But then like found her wandering around out there in the sky. And I was like, oh no, does this mean what I think this means? Like, because I hadn't seen how things played out. I just like got to her and was like, oh God, like what happened here?
Sure. Oh, you just ran into her.
No, I did the Deku tree thing and he was like, here's where the Master Sword is, but it's moving.
And just like, that's curious.
Yeah. I was like, that's bizarre. And then got up there and I was like, that sure does look like Zelda's hair.
It sure does.
And like all the colors kind of look similar. And then, yeah, it was pretty much like confirmed once you do the thing where you have to like hold onto the sword and then they play that cutscene. But yeah, what a fucking gut punch. Like, I don't know if this was true for you or not, but like having to reconcile with the fact that like this person who I thought was going to be near me and around in the game and like is kind of your partner in a lot of ways in these games is just like gone and has lost herself kind of, because that's what they say, right? Like if you do it, you lose who you are to being the dragon.
It wasn't, I don't think it was as much of a gut punch for me because I got all of the Dragon Tears first. So I was like, okay, this is what's happening.
Sure.
It wasn't as surprising when I found it. I was like, okay, this is sad. But also I was just thinking, damn, I feel like Zelda is much more of the hero in both of these games than Link is. And that was just confirmation of it. Like, she's spent so much of her life either battling Ganon solo or restoring the Master Sword for thousands and thousands of years potentially, so that Link could have just like a chance to win. A shot. Like, just like her selflessness is astounding, and also just like her power to back it up is pretty fucking incredible too. Yeah. So honestly, I feel like she does more heroic stuff canonically than Link does. Truly,
there's a lot more self-sacrifice in her story compared to Link, who's like head empty, swing sword. You know,
he's just the muscle. He's just the muscle. So yeah, I just thought that was it. Hit me emotionally in a different way. It wasn't like, oh my god, this is what happened. It was, wow, what a badass.
Yeah, totally.
Like, she did this for a chance, and now it worked. Actually, I got the sword back
for sure.
Now we're gonna make this happen. It filled me with resolve.
I think partially too, like my like family history with like dementia and Alzheimer's too. Like the story of someone slowly losing who they are over time just hits. You know, like it hits harder than I think it might for pretty much, you know, anybody who hasn't experienced that.
Absolutely. So, no, I get that.
It's a good story.
It's a good story. And just that still shot of Link holding up the Master Sword while riding on the head of a dragon in the sky was so good.
They do such a good job composing those shots. Like, I feel like in this game, more than the other one, there's like still images that really stick out to me like that.
No, I think that's the benefit of, you know, reusing a lot of the physical and game like physics assets from the last game, is that you can spend so much more time doing these more nuanced things in the game that are really special when they happen, right? Yeah. So yeah, really, really good. Just excellent all around. So yeah, where am I now? I've done the Zora Temple. So I got gooed. I got through the goo.
Yeah, hell yeah.
And now I'm making my way to the Goron Temple.
Cool.
That's the next one I have going for me. Yeah. Because once I got the sword, I'm just like, all right, Zelda, I got your back.
Yeah, I'm on my way.
I'm on my way. Side quests, get out of my way. I need to go beat Dorf.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, I take back everything I said about Dorf being hot last week, because my man is terrifying in one of those cutscenes where he, like, I forget what he did, but he just had the most terrifying grin and smile on his face.
Horrifying.
Oh my God. It was so scary and disturbing.
Yeah.
It just kept morphing into something more or less and less human. It was terrifying. It was terrifying.
Yeah. I loved that scene. It was so scary.
It was so good. Yeah. It was so good, and how scary it was. And there was no music or sound effects behind it. It was just him warping his face into some madness.
Yeah. It
was so good. And yeah, I mean, I'm still just going along through the game. Still loving the odd well and cave to find and plunder. The depths are still great.
Absolutely.
I'm so bad at making these vehicles. I feel like making vehicles and like building in Fortnite are two very closely related skills, and I have neither.
I mean, I really relied on YouTube for any of the like real advanced building shit.
Although I did see someone today who, on the subreddit Hyrule Engineering, who made a flying contraption that was just a single fan and control stick with 16 tumbleweeds coming out in like what would it be, 4 long spikes going out from either end, and it flew amazingly well.
Yeah.
It used like no battery because it was so light, had great balance, and could do like, it could go on the ground, it could go on water, it could go so high in the air. It's really damn impressive what people make in this game. It's really fascinating.
Yeah, it's great. I'm just so excited to see where people go in the next like years. Because like we're only like a month out, and people are like literally making Metal Gear Rex in the video game. Like,
that was wild. I couldn't believe it.
Amazing. Yeah.
This game's great.
Yeah, it is.
Don't know how much else I have to say that is at all unique or interesting, but besides that, it's just a damn good game.
Yeah, for sure.
And I do hope that this makes some developers not afraid to reuse things if they do it like this, which is maybe asking a lot.
It might be, yeah.
But it's just really impressive how they're able to reuse so much but still make it feel so new and fresh and interesting, and like its own unique game and experience. It's great.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Anyways, Chase, what have you been playing this week?
I got 3 games for you, David.
Let's hear it.
A bit of a weird grab bag this week, but like I said, I feel like I'm just like drifting right now. And I'm still, I will say, I'm still mostly playing the games that I talked about last week, Diablo 4 specifically, but three ones that I haven't spoken on quite yet. The first of which is Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu.
Oh, I saw you playing that. What's going on there?
Yeah. So I have had this pipe dream. To catch them all.
Okay.
I wish that there was like a simple way to do this, or a quasi simple way to do this. So far as I can tell, that this is a very complicated process that honestly I may have locked myself out of by not downloading Pokemon Bank on the 3DS.
Oh,
by now, because like
3DS shop is gone.
It's gone, so you can't download even free stuff like Pokemon Bank. So like, I think if you don't have that, you can't get Pokemon off of the 3DS.
Damn.
Which like, there's a lot of Pokemon entries on the DS and 3DS. So like, conceptually, that's going to make it a little tough to like get them all. So I don't know, but I'm trying to see if there's a way to work around that. There's also certain Pokemon that like you just can't get. Ones that are like you had to be at an event or something like that.
Yeah. Like so we were there and we all got Arceus or something like that.
Correct. Yeah. There's like a few of them like that. And so for that, I'm mostly not counting it. Either I don't count it, or I also know that there's just ways to duplicate a Pokemon on the internet and just like download that. So like I could do that, but I'm trying to mostly do this as straight and narrow as I possibly can. I watched like a couple of YouTube videos of people like trying to speed run getting a living dex, which is what it means to have all Pokemon, like even the unevolved and evolved forms in the same spot. I don't know if I'm going to do that, but we'll see.
That's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work. Mostly it was just kind of like something for me to poke at when I'm bored, you know, like
a challenge.
Kind of, yeah. A long term, like very much a marathon. This isn't something that I really want to do like with any sort of like very intense sprinting focus. I'm more just like, I've got 5 minutes. I'll go catch some pokes.
Sure.
And one of the speed runs that I watched was this streamer who like was trying to do it in X amount of time. And he said he would put like 2 minutes on the clock every time somebody subscribed to his channel and like got up to like 100 hours or something like that. So,
wow,
you know, was running through it. But point being, he started with Let's Go. And I was like, okay, I guess that's where I start. So I said, fuck it, we ball, and started playing this one.
We ballin' now.
We ballin'. I had played this when it came out. This was one of the very few Switch games that I bought physically. I think I was like in SAC at the time for like kind of an extended amount of time. I was like working at my previous job and like had to be there for a couple of weeks before I was like on to the next one. And so I was in SAC for like a week or two while we were still living in Seattle. And so bought this and played, I think, most of it at the time. But then for whatever reason, like the cloud save didn't work for that when I booted it up. So I'm like, you know what? Like the game isn't that long and it's been a long time since I played it. So like, I'll just play through it again. Yeah. Just like first impressions, like after having a video game podcast and like looking at these things in a way that's like not critical, but in a way where I can digest them. The first thing that strikes me is just how weird this game is to play outside of the context of Pokemon Go being really popular. This came out in, I think it was 2018, and Pokemon Go, like the height of it, I feel was like 2016.
Sounds about right.
I know a lot of people still played it afterwards, but like it was a cultural touch point in 2016. I feel like everybody was playing it at the time, especially that summer. And so there was really only a 2-year difference between that coming out and this one coming out. And for anybody who hasn't played it, there's like a lot of connective tissue between those two games, and especially how you catch Pokemon. Whereas between 2018 and now is 5 years, right? It's a lot longer of a time to, you know, have something be important and then not. Anyway, point being, it's just kind of weird to go back to this, but I will say like I think I'm okay with the way that this game handles like catching Pokemon and fighting Pokemon.
Sure.
Like again, for anybody who hasn't played it, most of the mainline games, you fight Pokemon in the wild and then try to catch them. And then you fight trainers as well with your Pokemon. But in this one, they have opted to, whenever you encounter a Pokemon in the wild, you just go into essentially like a Pokemon Let's Go or Pokemon Go version of catching them, where it's just you and a Pokeball and you're just throwing Pokeballs at this thing.
Yeah.
And you can like give it berries to
throw
make
berries
it chill
at
out.
it. Yeah. You're just throwing things at a Pokemon.
Yeah, just hurling missiles at Pokemons. So yeah, it's when this game was previewed, I was kind of worried about that because I thought it would kind of detract from the game as a whole, but it really doesn't. Like when I'm running around and kind of just like trying to catch a bunch of Pokemon, something I'm usually thinking in the other games is like, I wish this would go just like 30% faster than it does right now. And Pokemon Let's Go kind of does that, where if you're just encountering a random Pokemon, just throw Pokeballs at it. It's not that hard. And your team gets experience for doing that if you catch it. So like there's still an intrinsic reward for doing it. And so it makes grinding a little bit more like feasible. Plus it does the Pokemon Go thing where you can send all your extra Pokemon to Professor Oak and then he, I don't know, grinds the Pidgeys up into Pidgey cubes or whatever. I was never really clear what he was doing with my thousands of Pidgeys I was sending him.
Soylent Grey is Pidgeys. It's Pidgeys.
So yeah, I think it has a good loop there. And I'm mostly just surprised that like they didn't do anything else with this. Like maybe there's another Pokemon Let's Go in the works, but like it has been 5 years. That is kind of a long time.
It was popular when it came out.
Yeah, I think it sold really, really well. And so I'm surprised that like they haven't returned to this well at all.
God, I can't believe it's been 5 years.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking.
Wow.
And not to mention, like they have put out a lot of other Pokemon games in the interim. We've talked about this before with like the Pokemon series and stuff. And like something that I always want from Pokemon is more experimentation. And I think Arceus kind of got in that direction. The closest I have felt like, wow, this is kind of something different is in Arceus.
Yeah.
I guess I'm undecided about how to say Arceus or Arceus because I said both just now. So point being, it's just like, I think that you see some of that creativity in Arceus, and I think to a lesser extent Violet and Scarlet, and I think it is in Let's Go. You know, of course it is a remake of Red and Blue, so like, or I think more appropriately, it's a remake of Yellow.
Yeah.
So like, of course there's going to be stuff that you can't like really mess with there, but still, I think they are kind of taking some swings here, and I do hope that they like return to this formula. I think it's a really good way to let people experience those older games that maybe they're not intending to completely update, right? It's not getting the treatment of like Brilliant Diamond or whatever, where it's like the new game plus some of the like updates that they have over the years, but they do want people to like experience the game in like mostly a condensed form. I feel like I'm playing this game a lot faster than I did the first time I did it. That's partially because like I have more than 2 brain cells poking around in my head than when I was playing it the first time when I was a kid, because I was just training my Charizard and didn't care about matchups, types, anything. It doesn't matter. Everything.
If you're strong enough, the matchup doesn't matter.
Exactly. I'm just gonna flamethrow your Blastoids until I win. God, dude,
I'm gonna turn that water into steam and blow them up.
I did not know how to play these games as a kid.
I just remember getting lost in the Safari Zone.
Oh my God, yeah, constantly.
What a nightmare of a place
such
to
an
be.
Issue. I must just not have been reading what was going on in the game, which, you know, kind of makes sense canonically for my game history arc of not reading what's in the video game and just sort of saying, yeah, Ashley seems chill. That's fine.
I was about to say, this is your Ashley Johnson shit. No, Ashley Williams shit.
Ashley Williams, yeah. It fucks me up. I can never remember her.
Always. Yeah.
The other day I was trying to think of Ashley Johnson's name and could only conjure Ashley Williams. So
whoa,
it's just all in the same spot.
This is a Bernstein Bears sort of situation for us.
Exactly. Yeah. Which one has ever really existed? So yeah, like I think I'm probably like halfway through this game at this point, having a really good time. I love that they let you get all the starters pretty easily. There's something in my broken gotta catch 'em all brain that really likes not having to start the game over 3 times to get all the pokes. We'll see if this amounts to me catching them all at all, but I'll at least put some in Pokemon Home, see how it goes. If I still can, I don't know. I feel like I'm so uneducated about how to do all this. So we'll see.
Do you think it would be interesting to have the Let's Go line just being like a different version of the next iteration of the games? Just like a more casual version of it, and then just make the mainline games more challenging? Could that be an interesting way to go?
Sort of. I mean, like I feel like for the past couple, and I think I've said this on the show, that like I really wish Pokemon would just put out like the like base version of Pokemon, like a live service Pokemon. I know that's like kind of a cursed thing to wish upon the world.
Live service? You want Pokemon microtransactions, Chase?
I want horse armor for my Pikachu. No,
It just crushes Pikachu.
What I'm more thinking of is that like there is a game that exists that is maybe like mostly just for like battling other people or, you know, showing off your Pokemon or something basic that's not like I'm going to go save the world in Pokemon right now. But it has all of them. It's essentially like a gamified version of a national dex where you can in one spot fight and play with all of these Pokemon, like
a Pokemon Stadium.
Or Coliseum. Yeah, exactly. Like,
but online. You can fight anyone.
Yeah, and like sort of as maybe an extension of Pokemon Home. Is that the one? So that like you can transfer them all in there and they sort of exist online now.
So it'd still be creatures you have caught.
Correct. Yeah, you need to like transfer them into this thing. Or like, you know, maybe they offer X amount of Pokemon on there or something. But just as a way to like separate the people who like really don't like that there isn't a national dex anymore, that you can't like just catch all the Pokemon, and also allow them to just be like, I don't know, we've got 30 Pokemon in the next one. So it's not like that big of a deal for them to like make kind of bigger swings like that. Cause I feel like they're trying to satisfy too many audiences with the mainline Pokemon games.
Yeah.
And so it could be Let's Go, right? Like it could be an approach like Let's Go to these games where, you know, this is wishful thinking, but say they just start recreating the different areas in the Let's Go fashion. And just say like, hey, we just added Johto or, you know, whatever XYZ area. That's an undertaking that I don't think Game Freak will do. And like, frankly, does sound like kind of a lot of work. But I do wish that there was a way that we could kind of consolidate the way that we interact with this thing so that it would allow the mainline games to be a little riskier and to play around with it. Like what does a Pokemon game look like where you have 5 and that's it, right? Like how do you do that? It's not sort of the same formula that we've been looking at since 1996 or whatever.
Yeah, you could do different things.
Yeah, I think it would unlock that. Plus, like you could just add different stuff over time to the base game, right? It's wishful thinking and something I am definitely not expecting Game Freak to do. Not because I think like dev's lazy or anything just like that. I just don't think that that's what's something they're interested in doing. It sort of seems like they're mostly just going to be like, yeah, we'll keep doing the kind of bit by bit Pokemon like this, and that's going to be it for a while. So point being, I like Let's Go. I think it's pretty fun.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep playing it.
Awesome.
Yeah. The next game that I am playing, David, is a game called We Love Katamari.
Ooh. Is this also on the Switch?
Yeah, this is on the Switch. It's We Love Katamari Reroll plus Royal Reverie. Which is...
Royal Reverie. Wow.
It's like I think it was DLC for the first one, but it's just like more stuff to do.
More rolling?
More rolling.
We need a Katamari Damacy and Snoop Dogg crossover.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Love that. I was going to say for Limp Bizkit because he loves rolling, you know?
Katamari Damacy just constantly rolling over Fred Durst, and it's just rolling.
That's good. I like that. It's a good concept.
That's something. That's a thing.
That's something. So real quick, I realized that I bet there's somebody in our audience who doesn't know what Katamari Damacy is.
Okay.
Because I feel like people who are around our age will know exactly what this game is. But there are some younger listeners who I don't know that it's quite the same impact that it was in 2005. So Katamari Damacy and this game, We Love Katamari, is a follow-up to the first one. But Katamari Damacy, the base game, is a game where you play as like a little guy, and you have a weird little guy. All good games have weird little guys. And you have a Katamari ball, which is just a big sticky ball that you roll around. And
is it sticky or is it like gravitational force?
Yeah, I'm actually not sure the mechanics of the Katamari.
Because it becomes a star. I've always thought it was gravity.
It could be, yeah. Point being, when you roll over things, they stick to this ball. They stay on the ball. The way that the game usually plays out, and like this doesn't all happen at once, but typically you will start a level when you are very, very small, and by rolling yourself up, rolling over other things and collecting them, you become larger over the course of a level.
Let's be clear, the ball becomes larger, the prince stays the same size.
Yes, he's quite small still.
He's a strong little guy.
Exactly. And you're rolling over like a lot of stuff. It's not like you're having to be choosy about this. It's just like, 100 toothpicks in front of you, and then like a match. And then some chapstick or something like that, you know?
And then depending on how it sticks on the ball, it makes the ball physics change.
Yeah. Like if you get a big long one, it kind of like, you have to kind of roll over and it sticks into the ground, and then, it takes you a second to go over it. And like most of the game is that. You just have a certain time limit, you're trying to become a certain size, and then once you're done with that, you go talk to the King of Cosmos, your dad, who's like a very eclectic and like can I just say, hot character. I think we've been sleeping on the King of Cosmos for way too long.
I mean, he's thick.
He looks great, man. Like, his sense of style is really good. He's always got like the half buttoned look.
It's true. He does have like, I don't know what is it, but like the middle-aged guy who used to be like a rocker sort of vibe.
A little bit, yeah. But I believe it. Like, he's still got enough like charm to him. You know,
he's got some charisma. He's got the riz. I think is what you're trying to say.
He's rizzed up, David.
Is that how you say it?
Anyway, so you show it to your dad and he's like, all right, great. We're going to turn this thing you rolled up into a star, and then throws it into the sky. I think I just described the mechanics of the game. I think it is hard to describe this game without describing the like tone and the visuals of it, which are just sort of like fever dreamish.
Huh. Yeah, absolutely.
The combination of like the music, the visuals, it's just, can we sidebar on the music? Like the theme song for Katamari Damacy is incredible, but like the actual soundtrack of the game is also like astoundingly good. Mm-hmm. It's such good and like bizarre music. It just matches the tone perfectly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so like I think if you've never seen this game, it's worth looking at it. You'll probably recognize it, to be honest, but like just the visual part of it is astounding. Katamari Damacy, the very first one, came out in 2004. So like it's been a minute, and I don't know if you're like, if this was the case for you as well, but like I felt just so shocked at that video game at the time that like this is what video games can be. Like this is amazing.
It was thinking so far outside the box.
Yes.
That it was so unique and fresh for the time. Just completely nothing like it, or nothing still like it to this day. Truly.
Yeah. But 2004 was a pretty good year for video games. So like
I would think so, yeah.
It's not like these are bad games, but like World of Warcraft came out that year. Half-Life 2, Halo 2.
Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, which like I think are all kind of like, compared to Katamari Damacy, those are all kind of similar games, right? A lot of combat and like shooting and action and violence are like a part of those. And Katamari Damacy is like, what if you could roll a ball and get bigger? And that's the concept of the fucking video game. It is like, it was such a breath of fresh air from like another universe. Like, a window opened up into the Andromeda galaxy, and I breathed an alien breath of fresh air.
And expanded your mind in an instant.
Like, seriously, I remember just thinking that it was so original and so creative. And plus, like, you know, this 2004, like, random humor is a big deal at the time, and like this game sure was random XD rar kind of humor. I think it has the humor in it. I think ages pretty well. Like it's not so attached to that era. I think it was just like it was kind of two things lined up at the same time, that it was funny in a way that I think was palatable to 2004, but it's also still funny now. Yeah, it's wild, and I like genuinely don't always have the words to describe what its humor is doing. Yeah. It's just so out there. Again, it feels like it was conceptualized by someone who like has never stepped foot on Earth. Yeah. Which is amazing. It's really, really great. Anyway, so I've been playing We Love Katamari Reroll plus Royal Revelry for the Switch. And yeah, man, it's still amazing. It's still so good.
Oh yeah.
This is essentially the sequel to Katamari Damacy. Like I don't know about you, but I have a really hard time placing which one is which and like when they came out, because like at the end of the day, like it's kind of the same game. Yeah. Like you're just doing the rolling stuff. And so I wasn't sure like which one this was, but yeah, it is the sequel. And I was reading up a little bit about this. I knew very little about the development of this game, but apparently the creator, Kaita Takahashi, he was like this dude who was an artist originally. Like he wasn't a like game developer or anything like that. When he pitched the first one, was very interested in doing like, I think he said specifically something that can only be done in a video game. Like what is an experience that you can only have in a video game? And honestly, I think that this is one of them. Right?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
I don't know how you model this in any other way. The idea of like running over buildings with a big sticky ball.
This would be a terrible movie.
It'd be a bad movie. It's not a good book. Like there's nothing else in there.
A stage production might be interesting.
Maybe, but still you would have to add a lot of other stuff for it to be really good. Whereas like you can just enjoy the tone and the mechanics of this, and that's fine. But anyway, he had said that he like really didn't want to make a sequel. He's like, I don't want to do that at all, because like I'm worried about the industry's reliance on sequels as like a way to develop creativity. And he was like, I think it's like stifling creativity, that we should just do something totally different.
Yeah.
Which like a lot of respect on that. That's a really cool way to look at this. I think that there is creativity to be had in sequels. I don't like totally think that like, you're selling out if you're making a sequel or something like that. But
Tears of the Kingdom.
I think that there is an amount of creative honesty that in that statement of like, I don't want to like reduce the potency of my video games or my creativity or anything, which is cool. But he eventually agreed, and he's like, fine, but I want to do something that we couldn't have done in the first one, like some kind of story thing. And so what they ended up doing was that a lot of the game thematically is about people's response to the first one and like the outpouring of love for Katamari Damacy, which is kind of amazing.
We love Katamari.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like the title of it alone is like, yeah, I get it. A lot of the levels start with like you as the prince running around Earth and like a person being like, I love flowers. I just can't like get enough of these fucking flowers, man. Would you roll me up a Katamari with flowers on it? And like the King of the Cosmos is oftentimes kind of reluctant to do anything because you go up and talk to him after that. And he's like, I don't know. And then like you'll see the little text box below of like, I love the flowers. And he's like, yeah, maybe flowers. Okay, why don't we go roll something up over here? And like plops you down in the level, which I kind of love. It's like it's sort of a cute way of the creator being like, listen, I don't think that I would have done this left to my own devices.
Yeah.
But y'all love this game so much that I'm kind of doing this as like fan service almost.
I'm doing this for you. First one was for me. This one's for you.
Yeah, which is kind of amazing. I don't know that there's like, there are games with fan service in them, but I don't know of a lot of games that are about fan service.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is all like, it's all kind of bizarre to play in a game like Katamari Damacy where the fan service that you're doing is maybe ruining a town and turning it into a star. Like,
destroying someone's home.
Yeah.
I love flowers, but also you might roll up my house and turn it into a combustion into this night sky.
The undercurrents of Katamari Damacy are always so wild and like befuddling to me because it seems like a good time in the game and people are very excited about Katamari Damacy, but like it seems like there's destruction going on when you're playing the game.
Yeah.
And so there's this like every now and then you'll roll up like a person or something and they're definitely like screaming while you roll them into the ball.
They scream and they flail. And they get covered by other things in the Katamari, and I can only imagine they suffocate and die.
They also run away if you're like trying to chase them. So like there is this like very chipper visual layer on the game with like sort of this undercurrent of like, is this okay? What's happening here?
Don't ask questions.
Yeah, which I think is sort of like, it's intentional and I think it's kind of fun. It is kind of nodding to the fact that like, hey, it's a video game. It's fine. Like, don't worry about it so much. But I do think it's fun to kind of have that undercurrent that the game doesn't need to explain itself of like, and then everybody's fine or whatever. It just keeps on going with this weird hypothetical or maybe non-hypothetical setup for the game.
Yeah.
Because like in the first one, you do roll up the Earth and all of the stars.
Yeah, you roll up the continents of the Earth. Everything.
Yeah. So like conceptually, none of this should be here in the second one, but it is. So like, who knows? I think it's fun. I think it's a really fun conceit for just like the story to be like, I don't know, man, fuck it. Who cares? I think that's really great. So yeah, I mostly just wanted to comment on the fact that Katamari Damacy and We Love Katamari are such incredible games and they're still really, really good. I find myself just like physically and emotionally relaxing whenever I play one of these levels.
Sure.
It is a great Switch game too, because like you can just do a level in 10 minutes and that's enough. So yeah, an incredibly important series to me. I feel like it shows off such a high level of creativity that like I aspire to do and don't know that like is even possible as a human being.
Sure.
But like is really cool. I think it's really, really great and something that I feel like is one of my like core games, you know, like one of the things that when I'm thinking about video games and thinking about like how much fun they can be or the creativity that can be on display, I think about this game among a bunch of others, but it's definitely up there for me of just like pure fun.
It really is just distilled fun. They didn't care about anything besides just making a fun experience.
Yeah, and it really is that. So very much mission accomplished on that one. I also love Katamari.
Same.
Anyway, the last game that I've been playing, David, bit of a doozy, big video game with this one. I played the demo of Final Fantasy 16.
Oh, that's the hot newness.
That is the hot new. So with all the summer game stuff, there's been a bunch of like, hey, we just dropped this, or there's a demo for this coming out. And I saw that a bunch of people were like, hey, the demo of Final Fantasy 16 is really, really good. And I saw that when I was coming.
Demo.
Me too. And I was interested in that because usually like it's really saying something to say that a demo is good. I feel like there's an art to making a good demo unto itself.
Absolutely.
And so when I flew home yesterday, I was like, all right, I'll download that and play it tomorrow. And then I played it today. Oh my God, this video game, David. It is so good. Yeah. Yes. So like historical wise, I think Final Fantasy is sometimes a very important game to me. I kind of played them during the PlayStation 1 era, but I would be hard pressed to say I was like a big fan or something like that.
Sure.
I know you owned 9, and I played 9 a little bit at your house every now and then.
Yes. Yeah. Sure did.
And so I was into that, and like had tried over and over again to install Final Fantasy 7 on my computer, my gateway desktop. It just wouldn't do it. Like it would get halfway through the install process and just not do it. And I was just stuck looking at these like renders of Midgar being like, God, it would be cool to play this video game, and just couldn't do it. I wonder what my gamer career would have looked like had I played Final Fantasy 7 at the time. Because I've only played it in hindsight.
I mean, if you had played on the computer, maybe you would have just been a big PC boy the whole time.
I know. Who knows?
Fork in the road.
Although, knowing how I played Pokemon, I probably wouldn't have got out of Midgar. Probably didn't think. I don't think I could have done that one.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I don't feel like I really started playing these games until Final Fantasy X, at which point I was like way in to Final Fantasy X. It was I love that game. I think it struck gold for me because it was hitting at the right time of being a good game. I think I like genuinely really think it's a great Final Fantasy game, but also the tone of it just so overwhelmingly like emo, and it was doing the same kind of like Kingdom Hearts stuff. Yeah. Of Titus just like looking on the sunset and being like, what does it mean to think about life? I want to write my story in the pages of my own world. None of it means anything. Nothing. But he's just sort of like saying intense stuff, and I like that vibing. A lot.
He's just vibing.
Playing it in hindsight, he reads as like much more of like kind of an angsty teen. Yeah. But I'm okay with that. It's still really fun, and like I think there's a lot to love in that game. I think that the larger story of Final Fantasy X is really good, and like tells a pretty neat story about like generational trauma and stuff like that, which is really, really good, I think. Plus like a couple of bigger twists in that game are really great. But anyway, so I really loved that one. I went back and eventually would play 7 and 9 and 12. I played 12 on release as well, but 7 and 9 I went back to and like loved all of those. I think 9 is like really just like great Final Fantasy shit.
Zidane.
Yeah, Zidane is great. I love the kind of like high fantasy tone, the like wild stuff that's going on in there. I was recently informed that in the last boss, apparently you're fighting God for some reason. He quotes, fear leads to anger leads to hate, and hate leads to suffering. I'm like, dude, that's Star Wars. What are you guys doing? You can't just take that.
That's absolutely Star Wars.
That's absolutely Star Wars. But anyway, still really liked it. I think the final act in that game is a lot, but overall, I think that the game is really, really good. Plus, Vivi is just like an incredible Final Fantasy character.
He's a great one too. Yeah.
So anyway, the series as a whole is like really important to me and has like been a part of my life for a long time. I didn't love 13. I'm ready to be wrong about 13. Like I haven't revisited that since I played it, and I've heard some people like really shine about it, and I also think that tastes are a little bit different. I was really upset that the game was so linear at the time.
Sure.
But I wonder if that wouldn't be as
not an issue
aggressive.
Nowadays.
Yeah, I don't know that I would really complain about that all that much now, but I'm willing to be wrong about 13. 15 was bizarre, and like I thought it was good in points, and I know people who really like it. I think the ending really hit some people, but it just kind of felt like disjointed and meandering a lot of the time. Like it didn't feel the kind of urgency that I found in a lot of the other Final Fantasy games where like I needed to see what was going on in the plot because it felt like I had to. Like I got to see what's going on. I have to resolve this thread that they're currently pulling on.
Yeah.
I gotta go hang out with Orin because he's cool as fuck. Like all sorts of stuff. And but so I was hoping that 16 would get it right, because to me it felt like it had been kind of a long time since Final Fantasy did it right. Sure. I know that Final Fantasy 14 is like a really big deal for people, and I've heard really great things about that, but I just don't have room for an MMO in my life right now.
Yeah.
But I was hoping that they would really nail it. And I was like a little bit not off put, but I was worried with the stuff that they were showing. I was like, man, this could really just be a straight down the middle story about crystals, and I don't know if I'm really into that.
Just move to California. You have plenty of stories about crystals from people around you.
Yeah, exactly. But I also saw that they were trying to do this like darker tone, and I was a little bit worried that they wouldn't be able to pull that off, and that it was like maybe too late. Like that era of like almost edgy, darker stuff had kind of like gone out the wayside a little bit, but that's like not that hot anymore. So I was worried about all that, which will bring me to when I started playing this demo today. First of all, I think just on the surface, mechanically, it is a much more active game than the mainline Final Fantasy games thus far. It plays a lot closer to like just a standard 3D action game. It plays a little Kingdom Heartsy in ways, right? I think it is a much more advanced version of that. But I think if you put those two next to each other, you can see like, yeah, okay, there's an active combat system here.
Yeah.
That's not to say it isn't an RPG. It definitely is. You are getting levels and gear and gil after you beat people. And there's like, you know, an ability circle that you have to invest in and stuff like that. So I think it definitely still is an RPG, but the combat is much more action focused, which I don't have a problem with. I know that there are probably some people who might be disappointed about that, given that Final Fantasy's history is rooted so much in this like turn-based combat stuff, but I am more than happy for them to try something different.
So is it more like the Final Fantasy VII remakes?
Yes, I think if you've played those, this will seem pretty familiar to you.
Gotcha.
I don't think it is quite as heavy as that one felt. I feel like when I was playing as Cloud, I was like, I feel like I'm wielding the Buster Sword. This thing feels heavy and big.
Yeah.
Whereas the person you're playing in this one, Clive, feels much more agile and light, which I think is intentional. I think they're trying to make you feel like a swordsman who is like quick, you know? Anyway, so the game starts you, and just to be clear about what I'm going to talk about what's in the demo. If you don't want that, chapter markers, skip ahead a little ways, and you don't have to listen to it. But I'm pretty much just going to stick to what I played in the demo, which is the whole thing. It's a couple hours of the game. This is the opening hours of the game, so this isn't like skipping ahead to any farther part of it. So buyer beware. If you don't want to hear anything, here's your chance to skip ahead. The game starts you out and you're in this like kind of bleak situation playing as Clive after there's like this wild fight sequence that you play through as like a phoenix and Ifrit, the creature, the summon that you've seen before in other games. And it very much has like a scene that looks like when Gandalf and the Balrog are falling through the lowest
Mines of Moria.
Yeah, they're like falling into the mountain that's like underground, you know? It looks like that. So it's sort of this big moment, but it pulls back and you're playing as Clive, who seems like he is being ordered around by someone. There seems to be some kind of war breaking out, and they're mentioning a lot of proper nouns, but it quickly seems like there are two sides fighting. Clive and these three other guys that you're with are on one side of it, and they're trying to find the dominant, which is like the other armies. You could call them like a summoner or something, but I think the implication is that they either summon or turn into these big Titan creatures during the battle. And so they're trying to go find this person on the other side. And you're kind of like wandering around learning how to do the game, just like how to move and jump. And something it's making very clear to you in that part of the game is like this guy Clive, he's being referred to as Wyvern and like not his name. And he is very much like they're talking about like his kind, and he keeps like touching this like tattoo on his face whenever they talk about that.
So
like,
mysterious.
This is kind of like a brand that I have or something. And so the point is that he seems to be like not very well regarded societally. There's a bunch of like cutscenes with the other side of the army, with people meeting and trying to figure out like what to do about this war, yada yada yada. That's all very good and very Game of Thronesy, which is really great. But the next thing that happens is like you are wandering through this area, and kind of in a Xenoblade 3 way, these two like Titans show up and just start like fighting each other, which pretty much just destroys the battlefield and every soldier on it. Mm-hmm. Like they are kind of an afterthought for this bigger fight that starts breaking out, that are, again, representing either side of this conflict. You run around as Clive, and one of your buddies gets like crushed under a rock or something, kind of unceremoniously. You pass out as Clive, and it flashes back to, I think it said 13 years prior.
Record scratch.
Exactly. And he is training with the Lord Commander of some castle, and they make it clear here he doesn't have the tattoo, and he is maybe a nobleman, maybe the son of the king here. And then you get your battle tutorial from the Lord Commander, and the rest of the next couple hours see you being introduced to all these characters. Like, it appears that you are the brother of the dominant of this era or this area, named Joshua. He's your brother, and you have both royal parents, mother and father. It seems like your mother doesn't really like you very much.
Oh,
like she chides you and doesn't really like make a lot of eye contact or talk to you very much, but she's clearly like very invested in Joshua. It should be mentioned that both of them have kind of similar hair, whereas you and your dad have kind of darker hair.
Gotcha.
To match each other. And all of this is like, sometimes it is told, but I think this game is doing such a better job at showing this rather than saying like, as the mom, like, you be quiet, my one son Clive that I don't like very much. You're just sort of seeing her do this, right? Yeah. Like, she's kind of not paying attention. And when you're talking to your dad later, there seems to be some kind of distance between him and your mother and yourself, of him saying like, okay, well, like, let's prove your mom wrong for once and for all, right? Like, how about you go do this mission and we'll show her what's what.
Yeah.
And so this story plays out of essentially them saying, all right, we're kind of losing this war that we're in, and we have to go do this ceremony at XYZ place, which involves Joshua. We're maybe going to like summon somebody or something to go to war and finish this fight that we are currently involved in.
Finish the fight.
Finish the fight. Anyway, I'm not going to go all the way to the end of what ends up happening there, but I'm just so fucking invested. The game is so compelling.
It's an interesting story, it sounds like.
It is. It really is. In a way that I find much more grounded than the other Final Fantasies have been for a little while. And I think that when I was hearing about people saying that this is a game that is influenced by Game of Thrones, I was like, man, I hope that that's not bad. Like, I hope that that's not a bad thing. But
had me a Lord Commander.
Yes, exactly. I think what they have taken from Game of Thrones is the effects of power structures and how that affects regular people.
Sure.
Which is, I think, like by far a much more interesting thing about Game of Thrones than like them killing characters off or anything like that.
Yeah.
I think the characters being killed off is a lot of the time a consequence of a cold system.
Yeah.
The system is the thing that is much more interesting here, of like, why is it this way? And like, it really doesn't take prisoners, you know?
The system is uncaring.
Yes. And like, who are the people who are holding that up and stake to benefit from it? And like, how does that all play out? And I think this game is doing that, where you see the people who are invested in one way or another in this system working the way that it does, and like how that is affecting Clive as a kid and his child brother Joshua and shit like that. Like the pressures that it is putting on them, the guilt that they're already saddled with as kids, the relationship between your dad and your mom as Clive, like how they interact with each other is all driven by sort of how this world is built and the powers that be in it. And even these, like, you know, the bigger battle that you're in the first part, it's made clear that like some of these guys are like, I don't want to go down in there and fight yet, because you know, they're gonna pull out the big guns here in a second, and pretty much everybody's just going to be table setting essentially for that fight. Which, I just think it makes for a better or at least more interesting story, rather than just like cruelty for cruelty's sake. You know, it's not really grimdark in the way that it's like reveling in the violence or the cruelty. It's just sort of like, we are looking at what something like this could do to people, or how it affects nobles or non-nobles or anything like that. And I think especially in the way that it is situating Clive as a person who was noble for a while, and then for whatever reason, it's unclear so far, 13 years later, he is like lowborn essentially, right? Like he's got this brand on his face of like who he is and what that means. You run into a person like that in the castle when you're younger, and like everybody's like, oh, I apologize for him. Like, don't talk to the nobles. Like, you can't talk to them and all that sort of stuff, right? So it is, it's making clear that they're like second class citizens here, which again, it makes Clive's situation much more interesting. So it's good. I have not felt a Final Fantasy story be this urgent in a while, where everything felt like it was very important and I was compelled to go from one thing to the other. I feel like in Final Fantasy 15, it was like I was having a good time, but I wasn't necessarily that driven to figure out like what's going to happen next or how are these characters going to respond to this thing or anything like that. It was kind of just like, yeah, it's Final Fantasy. I'm having a good time. I want to go kill some goblins and shit. But this one's pulling me along a lot more in a way that just the stakes feel real. The people feel real. It feels like they're all responding in a way that like isn't just like weird anime shit happening. Like why is this happening?
More logical interactions between people.
Yeah, exactly. It feels like it's pulling from a lot of different stuff. Like obviously all of the other Final Fantasies are an influence here, but I think Attack on Titan is a big influence on them.
Okay.
I think Gundam is like the original Mobile Suit Gundam is a big influence in the way that it's like showing how young people put into these positions are kind of altered and hurt by violence and the like responsibilities of that.
Sure.
And how uncaring a lot of those like situations can be.
Yeah.
Which is really cool. I think that those are two very interesting things to put together. Like a Game of Thrones kind of story along with like anime is like, fuck yeah, dude. I'm way into that. It sounds great.
Yeah. Sign me the fuck up. Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I just think it's really, really good so far. It ends in just an incredible way. Like the demo, I have to imagine this is the case for a lot of people, but it ends and it's like, all right, well, this comes out in 10 days. Here's the option to buy it if you want to. And I was like, yeah, like you got me. I'm way in. It showed me just enough story. It showed me just enough of kind of how the progression loop is going to go, how I'm going to be able to develop Clive. The bosses are all incredible. I'm having such a good time fighting the different people. Also, the music. I've got to talk about the music. It is just astounding how well they do it in this one.
Mm-hmm.
It's done by this dude named Masayoshi Soken, I think is how you say it. He has been doing the music for Final Fantasy 14 for, I think, most of the time that's been out. And I've heard a lot of great things from people saying that, you know, he's doing a great job over there. I love the soundtrack. And I hadn't really been able to like engage with that just because, you know, I don't play Final Fantasy 14. I can't do the MMO. But God, it's really true. I think that he's doing a great job of integrating the like kind of motifs that you hear in Final Fantasy music really often. Specifically that like harp arpeggio that they play every now and then. That thing. That is weaved into the soundtrack in certain parts to kind of like, you know, signify like, hey, this is a big thing that's about to happen. You know, I just think that's really smart to include that in part of the soundtrack rather than just like, it's boilerplate music. We don't really care. It's like, it's a part of it. Not to mention that it feels like it is scored much more like a movie where there are moments that are happening that it feels like they must have been watching the game and playing or like composing around the moment, right? Where it's not just the same 1 minute loop of song that they've been playing for a while. It
matches what's going on screen.
Exactly, right? Like the music swells when something big happens.
Sure.
Or when characters are talking to each other and like, you know, it pans up to like the moon there was a part where they were like talking about like praying to the moon, Clive and his friend Jill. And the music was just really well done in that part because like there were certain actions or the way that the characters were moving or, you know, one of them was crying or something like that. The music matched each of those moments just like so well. It's just so impressive that they're able to do that in a way that makes it feel like that much more significant, that much more urgent. I think a good soundtrack like that is so not overlooked because obviously people are working hard at this, but I think that can aid a lot of these moments and making you unconsciously know like, okay, something's happening, or like, oh, that last line didn't resolve very well. I wonder what's about to happen or something, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I am way into it. I'm not positive about this because obviously I haven't played the whole game, but it sort of feels like that they are moving in a direction where there might be some commentary on like what it means to be a Final Fantasy game. And like the burden of that.
Sure.
They immediately start the game with like, we are all beholden to the crystals, and like without the crystals' blessing, we aren't able to live our life and all this stuff. And like I think that like the crystals talk is intentional of them being maybe suggesting like that like it is hard to try and break out of what it means to be a Final Fantasy game, but that like that is a self-imposed restriction almost.
Sure.
In the same way that like the ghosts in Final Fantasy VII were kind of pushing towards a similar idea, that this one is also kind of, I am hoping that it eventually builds to them making the case that like this power structure is dumb and we don't need it, thereby kind of implying Final Fantasy doesn't have to be one thing. It doesn't have to be a certain thing, that it can be a lot, or it can be this or that, or it can be your interpretation or whatever, right? Which I think would be really cool. I'm not positive about that. I could be totally wrong. They might be building to a real story just about crystals and that's it.
It's just crystals.
It's just crystals, yeah. But I think that would be a really cool approach regardless, and I'm just excited to see what they do with it. It's a really, really interesting game so far.
Oh yeah. I'm interested.
Fully in. Yeah, I think you would like it. There are a lot of names and kingdoms and lore and references to battles and songs that people sing and stuff like that. You had me
at proper nouns, Chase.
Yeah, exactly. I think it would be right up your alley in a way that like I don't know a lot of other things do very well.
No, I'm usually not super keen on Final Fantasy games. I always feel like there's this undertone of campiness to them.
Yeah.
Which, not a bad thing, just not my bag, personally.
Sure. Yeah.
And this sounds much more grounded, and I'm curious to see how it feels.
I think you would like it. I think it does pull back a little bit on the camp, which I bet for some people would be kind of a bummer. I bet some people are kind of looking for the goofiness.
I'm sure.
But I don't need Final Fantasy to be the goofy thing. I think there are a lot of games that are still doing that. Like with Katamari Damacy, there's really only one of those games, right? Like it's just them who are making it. And so if they ever put out one where it's like, this is a serious Katamari Damacy now, it'd be like, shit. Like, I don't want that actually. But
the king of all cosmos is dead,
and you killed him. Maybe.
You killed him. You gotta roll up the evidence to make sure you don't get caught.
It's L.A. Noire 2 coming this fall.
The galaxy that gets made is like a picture of you murdering the king. You're like, fuck. Now you gotta roll up the galaxy you made, the constellation you made.
Turns back into itself. Great. But there are enough RPGs like this that do embrace that kind of campy style that I think like there's enough out there that won't go away. I think Final Fantasy is just trying something different here.
Yeah.
Like I said, Xenoblade Chronicles 3 definitely embraces the campy goofiness of it. And that game is great. So it's not like there aren't things out there. I think Yakuza is currently doing an amazing job of the campiness that is going on in sort of RPGs right now. And so it's not like that doesn't exist. I think it's just Final Fantasy trying something else. And for me, for my money, I'm really into it right now.
Oh yeah, awesome.
It's going to be hard to wait the 10 days until it's out.
Yeah, it's coming, baby. It's coming.
It's coming. But man, they really got me. All day today, my brain was like, ooh, we should play more Final Fantasy. Oh, fuck, it's not out yet. Damn it.
Denied.
Anyway, David, this will all bring me to my Podtimistic thing of the week.
Yes.
It was the extended, beefy preview of Starfield that graced my television over the weekend.
There's a lot of Starfield.
Thank you, Todd. Todd has really blessed us this day.
You're excited for Starfield?
I am. This was another one that I was kind of worried about in a similar way to Final Fantasy 16, where it's like I liked Fallout 4, but other than that, I haven't loved most of the stuff that Bethesda has put out since Skyrim. Yeah. And so like I'm just like, man, guys, I know y'all need a win on this one.
Because what else did they release? Fallout 76, Fallout
76. 4. Elder Scrolls Online is the other kind of big thing that they've been doing.
ESO, that's right.
And just another thing where it's like, I ain't got time for another MMO, man.
Yeah, that's real.
Like, I don't want to do that. Plus, like, I think the combat in the Elder Scrolls games is a big thing for me. And when I've tried it in the Elder Scrolls Online, I've been like, yeah, it's combat, but it's no sword in one hand and magic in the other, you know? You can do that in the game, but it's just like it doesn't have the same feel to it.
Yeah, it doesn't hit the same.
No. And like, God, just like Skyrim and Oblivion were such important games to me as well. And so like I really wanted like also I'm a sci-fi freak.
Sure, you sure are.
Like if I could just have another good sci-fi game other than Mass Effect. Don't come at me, gamers. I know there's more than that, but still, I was hoping for more, and I was worried that Starfield wouldn't do it, that it would just be kind of more of the same stuff that they've been doing, but holy shit, am I just like fully sold on Starfield. I'm going to be totally fine if it's buggy at launch. Every single Bethesda game is.
Sure
I'm okay with that.
Yep.
But the stuff that I was worried about before, I am no longer worried about. It looks amazing. The world building that they're doing is incredible. The attention to detail with like your ship, your character, the ability to do more RPG-ish stuff in the game is incredible. I'm so excited. Thank you, Todd.
Thank you, Todd. My Podtimistic thing of the week is thank you, Todd.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Todd Howard, creator of most of Bethesda things. In case somebody doesn't know who the fuck we're talking to right now. Yeah. I'm really, really excited for that. This year is just stacked with games. It's unbelievable right now.
It's like I've said before. It's overwhelming. There's an overwhelming number of games I want to play this year.
I'm just soaking in it right now.
Feasting.
I'm floating.
I'm feasting. Yeah. Gamers are eating good this year.
Gamers finally gamers are eating good.
After 2 years of starving, suck every last bit of marrow out of Doom Eternal I could.
It's kind of it's a wild thing to say whenever I hear that online of like, there have been no games for a while, but like, y'all, Hades came out in the pandemic.
I sure did.
You can't hate on that. Chicory came out very recently. Gaming. Anyway, Dave, do you have something fueling your sense of optimism this week?
My Podtimistic thing of the week is when an otherwise non-scary game does something scary.
Yes, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
There are some instances of this. Most recently, I mean, I guess there is like the depths are scary in Tears of the Kingdom, but Ganondorf's face really stuck with me in that one scene. It was so disturbing how he just distorted his face into something non-human, and really went a long way to show like, oh, this man is pure. Yes. He is a terrible, terrible creature. Not a human, a creature. Other times this happened. Ravenholm, of course, and Half-Life 2.
Ravenholm, yeah.
Those are the two that come to my mind. Do you have any other? Do you think of any other games that were scary when they otherwise scary moments in an otherwise not scary game?
The one that jumped right out was there was that section in the most recent Ratchet and Clank where you were like in some kind of like metal facility, and there was like essentially a xenomorph chasing you from Alien.
That's right.
Which was very scary in an otherwise totally chipper video game.
Yep. It's a very chipper game.
Yeah.
Ooh, any of the Boo levels in a Mario where it just comes out of nowhere, it's just spooky. Just spooky. Yeah. Not like terrible spooky, but like fun spooky, but still spooky.
The newer ones are very much more like, it's a Boo, it's fun. But like in Mario 64, when you go into like that cursed circus level and like Boo is at the bottom of that like merry-go-round and everything is so scary down there. That one's very like haunting. Yeah.
Love it.
Those are the ones that are coming to mind. Let us know, gamers. What's your scary moment?
Scary moment in a not otherwise scary game.
Use hashtag Diablo TikTok to tag us in the post. Did you see that commercial that Megan Fox did for Diablo?
Mate, what the fuck?
It's so bizarre. It feels like they made a commercial for 2004. Like Megan Fox is just like there, kind of scantily clad, like Booth Babe era clothing on. And she's just like, I love Diablo, gamers.
Show me your worst endgame death with hashtag Diablo deaths, and you might get a eulogy from yours truly, telling the world that you went out like a hero.
Do kids nowadays even know Megan Fox?
I don't know. Like, she's famous, but I don't know that she's like huge famous, right? She hasn't been in a lot recently. Anyway, Dave, do you want to move on to our main thing?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, cool.
Hello, gamers. Welcome to Good Games.
My God.
We've got a report from the Western Front. There's video games to talk about. This one suggested by listener DK.
Not even gonna attempt. I got no British accent in me at all.
I think that's just like the transatlantic American accent from like World War One.
Mm-hmm. All I've got is like the Cockney accent.
Yeah.
And all I can say is pulp it because of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Today we're covering Hogs of War, a game for the PlayStation 1. And now David and Chase will talk about that video game. Get 'em, boys.
Yo, get 'em, boys. Nice.
Yeah, all that's true. Can I hit you with some hot stats about this video game, David?
Please, yes.
Cool. Oh, wait, hold on. Sorry.
The segment where we talk about the okayest games of yesteryear is this one. And talk about the things that we love about them is this segment. I forgot to intro it. Get 'em, boys.
Called Good Games, right?
Yeah, it's
Good Games.
All right. Now here's the hot stats.
Hot stats.
So Hogs of War was a game that came out September 29th of 2000 for the PlayStation 1. It was made by this game company called Infogrames Sheffield House, which a bummer of a name because before then They were named Gremlin Graphics Software.
Why did they change their name?
Why would you change it from Gremlin Graphics? That's so good.
GG.
GG Software, man. Are you kidding?
They really messed up on that one.
They really did. And I think that they had a way with naming. I wrote down a lot of their games that they made. And I've also got to say, I really I was tickled by the Monty Mole series of video games they had. The titles of them really paint a picture. I need to read them for you.
All right.
The name of the games are, in order, Wanted, Monty Mole. Then Monty Mole is Innocent. Then Monty on the Run. Then Oddvischerchen Monty, which is something in German. An Oddvinterchen Monty. Moly Christmas. And finally, Impossible. Really great names, which, and they just keep getting better. The next one is Potty Pigeon. Then Grumpy Gumfrey Super Sleuth, which is like so amazing. These are all just such good.
These are different than Monty Mole.
No, these are not Monty Mole. Different characters now. These are all very video game Podtimism characters, specifically Grumpy Gumfrey Super Sleuth. Yeah.
Super
so good.
Is that his counterpart in Japan, Detective Pikachu?
Yes, exactly. This is our version.
And Phoenix Wright as well. We need the detective game-averse.
And Gumfrey's the head of it. Gumfrey's the face. They've also got Thing on a Spring, Jack the Nipper, like he nips.
Oh.
I don't know what his deal is. The marketing promotion around this game is amazing. I have to send you some pics. And of course, Zool, Ninja of the Nth Dimension.
The Nth Dimension.
I love these video game names. These are all so good. They had like one person who was just cranking at full force with naming things.
There was one person there who was just a savant at this, truly gifted.
They just come out of the room screaming, Grumpy Gumfrey.
They just wake up from a fever dream that just start yelling things, and then people just write down whatever they say. That's our next 5 games right there.
Is it Grumpy Franklin? No. Grumpy Joseph? No. What is it?
Irate John?
There's got to be something in here. So I typically have a review from Joe Video. I don't this time of this game because I took the review of Joe Video, and what I typically do is run it through Google Translate from one language into another to mangle it really great. But I swear I got like a Rosetta Stone paragraph from Joe Video this time. Like it translated exactly the same way into every language.
Oh no, AI is destroying our segment, Chase.
Fear not, Games Cult is the one that I pulled from this week, which was pretty good. It ended up being great. I think Joe Video might have just accidentally written, like I said, the actual Rosetta Stone. Anyway, so let me read you what Games Cult had to say. War Pig is a direct sequel to Worms in 3D. The good game / documentary from Dad is detailed about the war and entertainment. Even when the last strategy, advertising, is revealed. But 20 jobs is so long. Since then, the pig problem has increased. The elderly have become less demanding and less prepared. The years are shorter and shorter, especially unnecessary. And that one got a 10 out of 20.
What happened at the end there?
I know. What happened? The
elderly are less prepared.
They were not talking about a video game there at the end. I don't know what was happening.
They got on their soapbox about something.
Yeah, somebody had some opinions they wanted everyone to hear.
The elderly are not prepared for war.
Could you tell me what Hogs of War is, David?
Hogs of War is a 3D action strategy game.
Yeah.
Where you take on a troop of war pigs.
Yes.
Anthropomorphized pig soldiers, I guess is what you call it. They have guns, they have bazookas, they have knives, they have grenades. They have all the accoutrements of war. And so the way the game works is that you have a large level that you and your enemies both share. And then you have, usually what was like 100 seconds, something like that, a certain amount of time to move around each of your characters. And you can move them freely around the level. You can jump, you can get up on top of, hills. You can go across water, but it takes away some of your health if you do that. So you're free to traverse around the level so long as you have enough time. And then you can position yourself to shoot people or to, strategically like flank people, anything like that. And then it switches between, each character's different hogs each turn. So it goes you and then the computer and then you again with a different hog, and you go down the list of your hogs that are battling right now. When you win, you can upgrade different hogs to have different specialties. So there's like the heavy weapons hog, there's the sniper hog, there's the medic hog, all sorts of different ways to customize your little piggies of death. And that's the gist of the game, I think. And I guess the aiming is the other part of the game that's kind of interesting, is that each weapon does aim a little differently. So you have to look down sights for rifles. You have to kind of aim and pray for bazookas and grenades. Yeah, Worms-esque in Worms 3D-esque in many ways.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I think you got it. What did you think of this game, David?
I enjoyed this game. This game was fun.
It was pretty fucking fun. I was into this one.
I had no idea what anyone was ever saying. I don't know if you could actually understand what people were saying.
Rarely.
I could not understand a single damn word. I was listening to the opening intro and I thought it was in another language. I was like, what is happening right now? And why is it that the hardest language for me to understand in this one is, or the hardest accent I should say for me to understand, is the British one amongst all the other very offensive accents that they have in this game.
I only played as the British ones and then turned off the voice acting. Like there's a checkbox in the menu that's like, you don't have to listen to them chime in before they attack. So I turned that off almost immediately. I didn't partake in the more rough parts of the voice acting.
They always just yell some sort of deranged maniacal thing and then shoot. And then the other countries yell some sort of vaguely racist thing.
Yeah. It's like some of them were like English and then like I think some of them were like French and German. So it's like, okay, like I don't care if it's like making fun of French accents or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, it did seem like
the Chinese one was painful.
Yeah, I sort of suspect we're looking at like Gex level sort of insensitivity with the accents there.
My next statement was that it feels like the people who did the voice acting for this game also were the people hired for the voice acting for Gex.
Yeah.
Same director or troupe or what have you, but it was that same kind of unhinged, I don't know, boomer humor trying to be edgy sort of deal. Like Gex was. So it was hit or miss, mostly miss as far as that is concerned.
If you're going to play this one, just turn the voices off. They explicitly give you an option to do that.
Yeah. But the gameplay itself, great.
Yes. The gameplay was great. I agree with you that like, I think so like first off, I was a big Worms head. I was really into Worms as a kid. Played, I think it was Worms World
Domination?
War, something like that.
World War.
Which it was one of the later ones that was still in 2D for the PC, because it was like I definitely wasn't running Final Fantasy VII, but I could run Worms pretty well.
World Party?
That could have been it, yeah. But it was an online game, like when I was really unable to play a lot of online games. And yeah, I thought it was like really fun and really interesting. I was in a clan of ropers. Was the
that's right.
Yeah,
you want a clan.
It was like there was like the item, the rope, worms, and so people would make these levels where they are specifically like you could only use ropes and like dynamite. So you had to like rope yourself over to someone, drop a little bit of dynamite, and then put yourself in a position where you would be like maybe safe or hard to get to or something like that. Amazing game type. I loved that so much. And so niche. But yeah, so I was like excited about this. I didn't know that it was going to be this kind of game. And like I think that's pretty fun. I'm like pretty into this style of game where you kind of just like go back and forth and trade blows a little bit.
Yeah, a more modern game it reminds me of, and I didn't expect to have this feeling at all, was you love these games.
Is it Valkyria
Chronicles? That's
yes,
it.
I thought the same thing.
Yeah, it reminded me a lot of Valkyria Chronicles, just less tanks, which I was really into. I like Valkyria Chronicles. I have never finished a single one, but I love the gameplay and the conceit of those games. And it reminded me of a little baby version of that. And it was very surprising because I did not expect to really have to take so much time to aim and take so much consideration to how I positioned myself and like the arc of my bazookas and my grenades. And definitely the training mission, I didn't know which way to to change the arc of my grenade. So I threw it like directly straight up and blew myself to hell, which was pretty amazing. I loved that.
I threw mine directly at my feet on that one.
Exactly. Mine went straight up and straight back down.
Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot more strategy in this game than I was thinking there was going to be. I mean, it's not like the most complicated game ever, but you do have to consider what you're doing and where you're going and how you are positioning your little piggies throughout each turn.
Yeah, I like that positioning is such an important thing to it, because I feel like the more you learn about like what weapons might be coming your way, the more that like putting yourself in a good spot is a really important thing. Like it's not chess, obviously, but
no.
I do like the idea that you kind of have to consider, all right, what's their next move going to be?
Yeah.
Like I can't just run up to them and shoot them. That's kind of putting me in a bad position. So how can I be defensive and like not put all three of my piggies right in the one same spot so they all get blown up by a grenade or something?
Yeah.
So yeah, it had me thinking more than I sort of expect for a game of this era.
Yeah.
Which was cool.
And I did like that, especially with the bazooka. It was so much of a just kind of pray sort of situation of, am I doing this the right way? You can kind of get a feel for it, but it was always a surprise whether or not it worked. And when things fail, even when things fail, it's still fun and funny to see how badly you botched something, because then it's like, oh, it's coming back to me. It's going to hit my guy, and he just flies into the air, and it's just, it has a lot of mayhem in it.
Yeah.
Which is enjoyable even when it doesn't go your way.
Yeah, there's humor to the mistakes, which is pretty neat.
Yeah.
I was playing through the campaign of this game, which I was like kind of surprised that there was one.
Yeah.
Essentially the way that the campaign works is that you just like go from one level to the next, fighting like different armies of pigs and stuff. But all the levels are like pretty varied to the point where like they're not exactly the same from one to the other. So you kind of do have to be like, all right, where am I in this one? A lot of the time that involves you having to make kind of the decision of, all right, I've got 100 seconds on this turn. Am I going to be able to make it to get close enough to this other person that I can actually do damage, or do I try and like save my time and just hit them from here or anything like that, which is really cool. But anyway, one of the cool parts about the campaign is that you can rename all of your soldiers, which I promptly did.
Yep.
It was just various Podtimism references. It both had David and Chase as pig soldiers, but obviously Chet and Chavid were among them.
Of course.
Truckee made an appearance. Snake, just solid Snake.
Why not?
This I love being able to name them all, because it made their inevitable deaths hit a little harder than I was expecting.
Truckee, no.
Yeah. There is permadeath in the campaign too.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
If you die 3 times, then that's it, which is
permadeath.
A bit of a challenge, because the game also, after you beat one of those levels, allows you to upgrade any of those units that you have. And so you can turn them into like kind of more specialized classes, right? Of like a heavy armor or an engineer or a healer or something like that.
The permadeath and the upgrade system, this is the strangest comparison, but reminded me of XCOM. I did not expect to be reminded of XCOM when I played Hogs of War. That's for sure. Because it gives you that same feeling like, oh man, I've really put a lot of time and effort into making this pig really powerful and good. And like, if I lose this person, if I lose you, I think it was Colonel Chambers or Lieutenant Chambers that I had.
Kelly Chambers.
It wasn't Kelly Chambers, but it was Lieutenant Chambers. He was a sniper in XCOM. I'm like, man, if she goes, I'm gonna be so sad, because she'd been with me since the beginning. She like survived amongst all of her other rookies. I'm like, man, this pig is giving me the same vibes. This is a veteran pig right now.
It's amazing. I think that's really cool. It has this kind of like emergent quality to it, where they at no point planned for this specific pig to be
significant to me.
So significant, but at the same time, like it forces you to play differently, right? Of like, if you're looking at who you're choosing to play as in the levels, it's like, fuck, I don't know if I can put this person in that much danger to go over there, because like they're my best healer or
Saving
something.
Private Chavid. Gotta get him out.
Save Chavid. Yeah, so I think that's a really cool thing that they allow for those systems to happen. I just think permadeath is a pretty interesting mechanic overall for like most games that include it. I'm usually like, that's pretty good. That's actually a pretty fun thing to include there. If a game can strike the balance between like meaningful failure and not being like overly punitive, I think that like permadeath can be really good. Like I just never allow anyone to die in Fire Emblem. That's not a thing that happens, but I like that permadeath is there. I like that like sort of threat, but
it changes how you play, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Like you can't just like throw your units at the people.
You have to invest a lot more into healing and defense.
Just being careful. Yeah. Whereas in like something like XCOM, it's kind of expected that you're going to lose people in there at some point.
Yeah.
And so how does that change how you play, or how do you change how you play after you do lose someone in a level, right? Is there a little bit more panic in the way that you're playing the game, that's just so cool. That's so amazing that like isn't programmed into the game. I'd asked TK what made him want to talk about this game and like what his opinion of it was. He had said that this was one of the only PS1 games I had experience with before I got a PS2. I never owned a PS1, but I had a friend who was obsessed with this game. Like Worms, Hogs of War has a really great set of combat systems for cascading success and failure. It sometimes feels like a Worms clone, but I feel like it rises above the comparison, especially since the 3D entries in the Worms series just aren't as good, and I kind of agree with that. He said multiplayer is really good too. He also said every time I see the Infogrames logo, I hear the pig squeal of the boot sequence in Hogs of War, which I think is also incredible. Yeah, I also think that this is like, I get the comparison to Worms, like, right? Like I understand why you would see those two and be like, yeah, these seem kind of similar, but I also think that it's doing enough that it's like not exactly the same thing. Yeah,
no, it's its own thing. It's definitely heavily inspired by Worms.
Sure, yeah.
Clearly, but, as someone, full disclosure, I haven't played too many of those 3D Worms games. I have played quite a few of the 2D Worms games, but not so much the 3D ones. It feels like a fun riff. And I do feel like maybe they tried to lean into the pig stuff a lot more because they were trying to be like, hey, we're not worms. We're pigs.
It's not worms, you guys.
Another pink creature. So, yeah, I mean, say what you will about that, but I still think it's fun. It's still its own thing. It's still good.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah, I never feel like the Worms really made the transition to 3D that well. I have not played every Worms game. Maybe Worms WMD is the one to get, or Worms Rumble. Who knows? I think I had played, like Worms 3, I think was the one where they made the transition, or Worms 3D, something like that. But I didn't feel like they really crushed that transition. So I think there is room for a different company to do that. I was reading the wiki, and they clearly in development were like, we want to make a Worms game.
Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah, it's fun. And it was. So like I don't blame them for that at all.
Worms should just make, or no, someone else should make a Worm style game, but it's Weirms.
Weirms. Like dragons.
Yeah.
Weirms.
Same game, but just with big dragons instead of little worms.
Yeah, sure. This game was fun. I like played it a lot more than I thought I was going to.
Same. I didn't think it was going to suck me in quite as much, but the levels were very snackable. They weren't long. Yeah. They never overstayed the welcome. Yeah. And it was always just fun to go in, and you always had a new unit to kind of play around with, because pretty much every single time you play, you get to upgrade somebody to some different type of class, and you get to use those powers, those weapons at that point, which is always a good time. Always love a good class upgrade.
Yeah,
right.
Totally. I think it was fun too, because I'm with you that I kept wanting to be like, all right, well, like, what's the next level going to look like, or what's sort of the gimmick of the next area that they're going to do, or how can I like do this level a little bit better than the last time I did it?
Sure.
Because there's situations where like, you can probably just like shoot and that'll finish the finish the fight. But like, it's really amazing when you can like throw a grenade that is positioned well enough to like knock somebody into the water or something like that.
Yeah.
Because the pigs cannot swim. So if you knock them into the water, that they're quickly will lose a lot of life. Yeah. Especially if you can like, again, it's a lot about like how you want to play this as a player. Like you can try and maybe like knock certain people into the same area and then toss them into the water, or like get them close so you can hit a grenade with hit two people with a single grenade, stuff like that, that's really fun. I think that's like it relies on creativity in a way that, like Mario games do, or Tears of the Kingdom does.
Sure. Yeah, it wants you to play around, and it wants you to experiment and see what kind of crazy thing you can do with the game engine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wants you to experiment. It's like college, baby.
Hogs of War is like going to university.
Wants you to experiment
and find yourself.
Find yourself this summer in Hogs of War.
I'm sold.
I want to say more about this game, but I don't know that I have anything else to say about it.
Yeah, same. I don't know. I mean, it's a pretty simple game. The thin layer of pizzazz, the thin layer of uniqueness they try to put on this game of the pigs and the voice acting was not what stuck with me.
No.
So it's basically just the mechanics that I'm looking at with this one.
Yeah.
And they're fun. It's a pretty tried and true formula.
I wish they would make a little bit more of this. I wish they had also like included a versus mode in Valkyria Chronicles.
Yeah, some online multiplayer with Valkyria Chronicles.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have seen you for months.
Or you might have seen me on the battlefield.
I might have seen you on the battlefield.
Is it possible for true love to bloom on the Hogs of War battlefield?
Find out this summer.
Find out this summer. I mean, it's true that I can let my love go to the side to beat you in the battlefield, Chase.
Oh, okay.
I can deny my love.
Yeah.
For cold-blooded victory.
It sounds like a Solid Snake to me. Not an Ocelot.
Is that a Solid Snake or is that a Solidus Snake?
I mean, yeah, I guess so, because Solid Snake wasn't in love with Sniper Wolf. It was Otacon. That was Otacon, so, yeah. Yeah, it's not like Snake was really in love. Although he was in love with Meryl, maybe.
Maybe.
But he didn't have to fight her, so
no.
That was not that big of a deal.
He just looked at the booba.
Maybe true love can bloom on the battlefield, David. Hideo? We've cracked the case.
Need more Strand type games.
Hideo's been tweeting a lot about Metal Gear Solid 4 recently. It's not building to anything. I think he's just like talking about the way he made the game. It's just fascinating. Every day I wake up, I'm like, what are you talking about today, dude? What weird shit do you have to reference of like, well, we wanted the very first thing that Ocelot did mirror the very last thing he did. So here's the pose that I put him in the last game and in the first one.
He's thinking.
My man is thinking.
Big brain activated.
God, hey, do you have anything else to say about Hogs of War, David?
No, it's fun. I'd like to try the multiplayer.
Me too.
There'd be a lot of shit talking.
Let's game.
Let's capital G game.
I'm a capital G gamer.
I mean, that's what G sounds like in game. G.
Yeah, you're right.
Capital G gamer.
The G stands for gamer. Oh my God.
Just gonna get you a big shirt that just has a G on it with like Donkey Kong's face in the background.
Yeah, man. I'll wear that.
Good evening, gamers. I'm stretching this bit out until it has nothing left, until maybe it's not funny anymore.
If you want to talk to us on the internet, you can do that at podtimism.com. We got links to our socials and our email and all sorts of shit on there. You can also check to see if we've played a game before, or if you want to suggest a game like people have been doing. Thank you for people who have suggested games.
Yeah, thank you.
Then you can do that on the website as well. So feel free. It's out there. You can do that. If you want to help out the show, there's a couple things you can do. The most notable of which is, or not the most notable, but one of them is just like sharing it with a friend or reviewing it on a site, Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps the algorithm to just like show more people, but obviously showing it to a person is more effective. So yeah, much appreciated if you're doing that. Thank you. Let's see. Thank you to Scout Wilkinson for the use of her artwork.
Yes.
Yeah. She did a great job with her cover
beautiful.
art. It's beautiful. She's doing a great work out there. If you want to check out her stuff, you can do that at ko-fi.com/humblegoat. She's got a couple of commission slots open if you're interested in her work. She does great work. Really love all the stuff that she makes. So you should pay her to make you art. I love that stuff. And you should do it too. Finally, thank you, listener, for listening to this podcast. We appreciate you being here. Yeah, it's fun. It's summer. It feels like summer, and I'm just thankful for everybody who's hanging out. You know?
I'm jealous. It's still been just overcast here in Santa Barbara.
Let the feeling of summer wash over you, David, with the appreciation of our people, the people listening to this podcast, reaching your heart.
Yeah,
shining rays into your soul.
of the sun into me.
So thank you, listeners. We very much appreciate you. David, do you have any gaming wisdom for us this week?
War never changes, Chase. War never changes.
Yeah,
even if it's pigs.
Still the same.
Still the same stink.
Stinks like piggies in here.
Stinks like piggies in here. I think that said war never changes.
Yeah, man.
Hogs never change. Hogs never die. Unless they die 3 times, then they're dead.
Then that's permadeath.
I wish
so badly that they had a Metal Gear in Hogs of War.
Just like Like a whole ass Metal Gear Rex, or like one of those like mooing Metal Gears from Metal Gear 4? Like which Metal Gear are you talking about?
Yeah, like I'm thinking Rex. Like the turn order's going around and it's mostly pigs, and then there's just a whole ass nuclear
uses his
armed
fucking
Metal Gear
railgun to
Rex.
just destroy like 5 pigs in a row. Love it.
It's just absolutely overpowered.
He just goes into the lake and just nukes the whole battlefield. Just fuck everyone.
The English pigs have discovered a new form of weaponry.
I want what's the name of the big in Metal Gear Solid 2? Mm-hmm. How the whole entire ship is a Metal Gear? What's that one? Is that Metal Gear Rex? Or no, that the Metal Gear Rex is the actual like little amphibian looking guy, isn't it? Or is he the one from the first one? Metal Gear Ray is the one from the second one. Metal Gear Rex is the one from MGS 1. Yeah. That's right.
Yes. Arsenal gear is what you're looking for.
Gear. I want a whole ass Arsenal gear.
You're going to need Solidus Hog for that one.
I need to house the Patriots in Hogs of War.
Yeah, who's funding this?
I need GW in Hogs of War.
I'm pretty sure the Lale Lule Lo has something to say in here.
I'm not gonna kill these pigs. I'm just gonna confuse the hell out of them.
Have I got some backstory for you, pigs?
You thought you were in a war in a cheery 1940s Britain with pigs instead of people, but actually it was me, Revolver Ocelot, the whole time.
Shalashaska is the name of this one.
That's my Russian name.
All right, see you next week, everybody.
See ya.
Bye.